so today we're going to talk about this idea called evaluating functions and function notation. So, specifically, what is function notation? So, from here on out, we are actually going to use function notation. From here on out, in all your math classes, we're going to use function notation. So, you guys are used to seeing y equals. So, in general, we like to use f of x. So f of x, let me get a different color here so you can see this. F of x is the same thing as y. Okay, they mean the exact same thing. It's just now that we're getting more into Algebra 1 and other maths, we start to use f of x. So usually this is read f of x. And so what that actually means is that y is a function of x, and it does not mean we're multiplying, okay? There's no multiplication involved. It doesn't mean we're multiplying, okay? Now, can we use different letters? Yes, we can use G is another famous one that we like. So G of x is an example. H of x. These are some pretty common ones, but we can use any letter we want, all right? But those are the three most common, F, G, and H. Once you get into physics, you use V a lot, but for algebra purposes, that's where we go, okay? So, F of x shows that y is dependent on x, and it shows that y is a function of x, okay? So what we mean by that is that y relies on or is based on whatever x is. So we can have a y value, but what that y value is determined by x, okay? So this right here, super important. You must plug in something for x to get y and to find out what the function equals for a given x value. Okay, so in order to figure out what x is, in order to figure out what y is, we have to plug in an x value. Okay, so special little note. Here's our note. Okay. For functions, the input or domain or x value goes inside the equation or parentheses, and the output values go outside the equation. So really what that looks like, if I stick with the colors we used last week, so last week, let me find my red, we did domain is blue, and we did range is red. So this particular example, what I'm trying to tell you looks like this. F of the input equals the output. Okay. All right, so what does it mean to evaluate? So now that we kind of know what function notation is, and function notation is just f of x, g of x, h of x, things like that, what does it mean to actually evaluate? So to evaluate, and sometimes that's all you're going to see as a direction, sometimes the equation or the question is all it's going to say is evaluate. That's it. So when it says to evaluate, we solve the equation. When given the input, by substituting and simplifying to get it down to a single number. Okay, so here's our special note for equations. Okay, when we plug numbers in, we need to plug them in using parentheses. Okay, and the reason we want to do that is because if we're stuck with a negative number, we want to make sure that that negative doesn't get mixed up with any other numbers. We want to keep it together. Okay, you can also evaluate using points. If I can fit on the calculator by typing the function into y equals and using the table. Okay, so when we evaluate, one of the things that we will use a lot of is PIMDAS. Okay, so we will use this a lot when it comes to evaluating, but I am going to also tell you this. Using the table and the calculator is one of the easiest ways to do it, and you're not going to make algebra mistakes. Okay, so copy these down and then come back for your examples.